Welcome to Latchkey History. And welcome to Idioms and Origins, the dark, true story of caught red-handed and more. Most of us like to think of history as something locked away in museums or buried in dusty textbooks. But the truth is, we are all carrying it around with us every day by merely speaking. Every time we have a casual conversation, we are unknowingly referencing ancient laws, naval battles, medieval fraud, and military disgraces. Today, let's look at 6 common phrases you have probably used without even knowing it, and join us in uncovering the surprisingly dark, weird, and fascinating stories of where they actually came from. Let's begin with an old classic: spilling the beans. Today, this means revealing a secret. But why beans? To understand this origin, we have to travel back to ancient Greece. The Greeks had a unique way of voting for candidates in secret organizations or local elections. They didn't use paper ballots, they used beans. A white bean usually meant yes or acceptance, and a black bean or dark pebble meant no. Voters would walk by a jar, the ballot box, and secretly drop their bean in. It was a perfect system of anonymity, unless the jar got knocked over. If the jar was knocked over, all the beans would spill out, and everyone would instantly see the ratio of white to black beans. Therefore, the secret results were revealed prematurely. You literally spilled the beans, and the secret was out. Next up, caught red-handed. You probably know this means catching someone in the act of doing something wrong, but the origin is much more specific and bloody than just general wrongdoing. It originates from a 15th century Scottish law regarding poaching. In medieval Scotland, poaching livestock or hunting in the king's forest was a serious crime, but it was also surprisingly hard to convict someone. If the authorities found you with a freshly killed deer, you could claim you just found it, or that someone else killed it. The law required a very high standard of proof. To be convicted on the spot, you had to be caught with the blood of the animal still wet on your hands. If your hands were clean, you might just have a chance in court. But if you were caught red-handed or red-handed, there was no trial necessary. The evidence of the crime was literally painted on you. While we are in the medieval era, let's go to the market and let the cat out of the bag. This phrase, meaning to ruin a surprise, actually refers to consumer fraud. Centuries ago, livestock was sold in open markets. If you bought a piglet, a valuable and pricey source of meat in that time, the farmer would typically wrap it in a sack for you to carry home. This was called a poke. But dishonest sellers had a trick. They would take your money for a pig, but while you weren't looking, they would swap the pig with a distinctively less valuable animal, a stray cat. You wouldn't realize you'd been scammed until you got home and opened the sack. Then, the cat would jump out, revealing the trick. Now let's head out to sea for turn a blind eye. We use this when we pretend not to notice something inconvenient, but this phrase actually comes from one of the most famous acts of insubordination in naval history. During the Battle of Copenhagen in 1801, the British naval hero, Vice Admiral Horatio Nelson, was leading an attack against an enemy fleet. The battle was chaotic, and Nelson's superior officer, who was watching from a distance, got worried. He raised signal flags, ordering Nelson to retreat, but Nelson, who was famous for his boldness and who had lost the sight in one of his eyes in a previous battle, didn't want to stop fighting. He raised his telescope up to his blind eye, looked at the flags, and calmly said, "I have a right to be blind sometimes. I really do not see the signal." He then ignored the order and continued the attack. He also thankfully won the battle, which led to the spread of this idiom. Time to face the music. It sounds like something an actor does before a play, right? Actually, this is likely another military term, and it's about disgrace. In the 18th and 19th century armies, when a soldier was court-martialed and dismissed for cowardice or theft, they weren't just quietly fired, they were drummed out of the regiment. The entire battalion would line up, and the disgraced soldier would be forced to march slowly between the ranks and out the gate. Behind him, the band would play the Rogue's March on the drums. He had to walk straight, look forward, and endure the stare of his former comrades, all while hearing the ominous-sounding drums. He literally had to face the music that signaled the end of his military career. Finally, let's end with a bit of social awkwardness, shall we? By giving someone the cold shoulder. The most common origin story of this idiom started back in medieval England, where hospitality was a strict code. If you were a welcome guest at a feast, you were served hot, fresh meat, usually roasted cuts of beef or pork. But if you overstayed your welcome, or if the host wanted to subtly hint that it was time for you to leave, the menu changed. The host would order the servants to bring out a cold shoulder of mutton, likely the leftovers from a previous meal. It was a polite but firm culinary signal. The kitchen is closed, the fire is out, here is a cold shoulder. In other words, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So the next time you spill the beans or turn a blind eye, remember you aren't just using slang, you're keeping alive a little piece of history, from Greek politics to Scottish law. Which idiom origin surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching Idioms and Origins, the dark true story of caught red-handed and more. And see you next time on Latchkey History.